recording in this computer, just so we have this for the other Amelas. Hi there. Hola. Okay. I do have some people supposedly coming in. Like we had like around 90 signups for this, so it was like an interesting experiment to do over the weekend. Can you all hear the music or not really? Am I the only one hearing the music?
No.
I think I'm the only one. I should have probably figured this out before by now. Um, but in the meantime, we can start and introduce ourselves. So let me see if I can actually move this. Hmm. Screen, audio. Hmm. Background effects. Everything's good. Okay. Uh, all right. We're not gonna allow some AI companions. A few AI companions are coming, and I'm like, I'm sorry, AI companions. You gotta be part of the life experience. So if you guys can actually put your cameras on, it'd be super nice because it's just so much nicer to present to a group rather than just present to the void. I'd say I'm gonna take my headphones out so you can hear me better, hopefully. Okay. I don't know if this worked with the music. Could you hear it now? Slightly? No? Nothing? Oh well. C'est la vie sometimes. All right. Hi, Shruti, Odile, Mercedes, a few people. So we're gonna start in 5 minutes. In the meantime, I'm just gonna quickly share my screen. And let's see. And you guys let me know whenever you see it. Can you see my screen? I
No, we
imagine,
got
yeah. Fantastic. Okay. Hi, everyone. So my name is Anaís Cisneros. I'm the founder of Amela. Today we're gonna be doing a lot of stuff, but I'm gonna lower the music a little bit. Okay, there we go. So you should still be able to hear me. I think we're gonna start 3:05. I'm currently in Berlin, so that's why it's 3:05. If you're somewhere else, it's probably something 05. And I'm quite excited to do this because this is both, I would say a skill of mine, but also something that is fun. And I like to have fun. So today we're actually gonna have fun together. It's gonna be the LinkedIn Makeover. So let me just start with this. I think I'm gonna take away completely, like if anyone wants a Berlin playlist, you let me know. I pass you on my playlist later. All right, so let's see. We still have 2 minutes, but I think we can start by kind of introducing each other. So as you can see, you can actually write in the comment section. And I think a really nice way to get to know each other is just quickly to say, hey, I'm person calling from. So for instance, in my case, I'm gonna write I'm Anais calling from Berlin today. Oops, I was gonna go to the waiting room, which no longer is there. Okay, there you go. All right, would love to know where everyone's at. So we have like, okay, Julia from Berlin. I know Julia. I also know Ana. Fantastic. Sophie from Mexico. Okay, lovely. Kat from Madrid. Diana from Medellin. Okay, Holly from the UK. All right, we have a lot of places and probably even more nationalities. I like this. Is there any men in the room or is it mostly girls right now? I do wonder on that. Oh, there is one guy. There is Paulo.
Hi,
I've not yet had the pleasure of meeting Paulo and Rishon. So you guys can
hi,
also
Pablo.
write there. Oh, from Querétaro. Yeah. I didn't know that that's how you say Querétaro. QRO. Alrighty, I think it's time to start. So let's start. So I'm gonna give you, this is gonna be a high power through type of session because it's only 1 hour. But we're gonna try and do all of this in 1 hour. So first, I'll give you a little bit of the agenda. We're gonna do a little welcome and some intros, which will do super fast. I'm not gonna make all of you talk, otherwise we would not finish in an hour. Then we'll talk about why this matters to you, because today the topic is LinkedIn, how to go from invisible to investable. Then we're gonna talk about what do investors look for in a founder specifically. That's kind of our expertise, so we're gonna be focusing on that. Then I'm gonna give everyone 5 tips for profile optimization on LinkedIn. We're gonna do trade makeovers. I really want to focus more on the makeovers because I think there you get to see like the concepts apply into a specific case. And then I'm going to give some tips that you take away, right? Like, so do's and don'ts. Then we're going to have some Q&A. The Q&A is going to be the last 15 minutes. And if you stay until the end, you get a gift at the end. So there is some anticipation there. All right, so let's start. Oops, sorry. I think, oh, okay. So the welcome and interest. I think I initially had a slide there, but it's not. So I would love to know not just where everyone's from, but I do know that there are quite some founders here. Not everyone's a founder, but if you are a founder, put name, like the tagline of your company. And if you want to introduce yourself, you can also just drop your LinkedIn. Because today we're actually going to be talking about LinkedIn. So it's a great way to get visibility, and different things like that. We currently have 22 people out of the 90 plus people that sign up. So 23 now. So I look forward to seeing some of you. Okay, I see some people know each other. Anyone wants to be the first one who actually drops their name and LinkedIn there? No? Okay, I'm gonna call volunteers later on in the makeover. So let's start with a little bit of content. So first, I'm going to give you a bit of an insight of why this matters to you. So as some of you may know, and maybe I should also introduce myself, I'm Anaïs Cisneros, the founder of Amela, but at the same time, I used to be an investor for multiple funds, and I've also been on the founder side. And through this journey, I've realized that many founders actually struggle to get visibility and investor attention. And a great opportunity to get that visibility and investor attention is to actually utilize LinkedIn. Because LinkedIn is a way in which investors actively scout for deals or review teams' profiles. So I just wanted to give you a quick stat over here. And there is this stat, I think it's actually even more, but this is what I could find. Like, which is over 60% of VCs actually use LinkedIn to research for potential investments. Okay, I see some people already putting their LinkedIn there. Fantastic. I love it. Okay, some people did decide to share. All right, so has anyone ever heard this phrase? Early stage investing is the biggest act of trust. Anyone over here? No one? Okay, so the person who said this is actually me. And the reason, and I'll give you a little bit of insight of why I believe that's the case. So if you know a little bit about investors' mindset, you will get to realize that a lot of early stage investing, so basically when you're just a team of one person or maybe 2 people or maybe 3 people and barely any tools, has to do with actually trusting that that small or like very scrappy person is gonna be able to become a unicorn. And that is why I think early stage investing is the biggest act of trust. Someone actually gives you the hardworking money that they gain over the years and decides to invest it in you, thinking that even though you look like you have nothing yet built, you will be able to make it and create a return. And that's why I would say that early stage investing is really a big act of trust. And this is something that some people sometimes forget. They believe that it's just, oh, I have to work and I will show that I can do it. But it requires a lot of trust. I think that's also why so many times it's easier for investors to invest in people that they already know, which, as you might know, is a good and a bad thing, right? Like, because many times that's not so favorable for teams that come from different backgrounds. But I think it has to do with the fact that you end up trusting the things you know and the people that you know from earlier on. So with that, I'm going to show you super quickly what do investors look for a founder. And I think whenever you look at early stage investing, there's a few things. So many times people think about, okay, If I'm on an early stage, I'm talking about pre-seed, so like the very, very beginning. Investors look for two things. They look for credibility and capability. And capability is usually shown by traction and different other things, but credibility can easily be shown through LinkedIn. And this is because LinkedIn acts as a new online CV or a validator of a relationship. So here is my own LinkedIn, which we'll look at in a second. But what I want to say here is that instead of people getting a CV thrown at them, now they just look at their profile in LinkedIn and they're also able to see the connections that they have in common with this person and kind of validate whether this person is someone that they should trust, right? Like, is this a credible person? So those are the two things that they look at. And now we're gonna go into looking at my own LinkedIn as, like, for instance, an example of a few things that we're gonna go through later on. So this is my own LinkedIn. And I'm not going to say, oh, I have the perfect LinkedIn, but I do think I have a lot of things here that have been implemented after a lot of like iteration. So first thing is, if you look at it, I have just a clear name, no name in capitals. I have a banner. Most of the people that have LinkedIn actually don't have a banner. And I think it's a missed opportunity because you can show a lot of what you do over there. So whether it is your company or some of the things that you're interested in, or just maybe a nice picture, I think is a really good way to actually differentiate yourself. Then you want to have a nice, clear tagline, right? Something that has to do with the things that you are looking for or doing. And then afterwards, you have several sections, right? So you have the about section where you're able to redefine your own expertise or your own story. And then you have a section that's the feature section, where you're able to put in things that have to do with credibility, right? So for instance, I wrote an article and I pushed it there. I have a newsletter and I pushed it here. I've written multiple things and people are able to go into my profile from a first glance and be like, okay, 186 people like this thing, so she must be credible. 172 people also like this thing, and there's 37 comments, and they can just quickly go, click into that, and already get a sense of, hey, this is a real person, and this is maybe someone I'd be willing to interact with. Then you also have the activity section where people are able to see the last things that you've been doing. And then, of course, the experience side, right? Where you're able to explain each of the things that you've done through your life. Later on, you have the education section where you can talk about how you differentiate yourself or where you have credentials from, volunteering skills, and so on and so forth. We even have the recommendation section where, in case you're actually looking to just get a new job, it's a really good way. Or people are able to see where you had good relationships with your previous colleagues. How were you when you were a teammate? So that's one part. Now that we have looked into a profile, I wanna just double click into some of the things that I think are important in terms of profile optimization. So very simple things to do is have a good tagline, have a cover, which I just talked about, use the highlight section, and also watch out on your activity section because I believe that many people don't think too much about what they do in their activity section. But the activity section can give you a very simple insight on what that person's mind's like. So what I mean with that is, for instance, if you're a founder that is looking to build a fintech and the last three posts that you made were about something in relation to, I don't know, B2B payments, that's a really good sign, right? Because they know that you are constantly consuming that type of information or that you're putting content about that. They know you're hustling. And then the last bit, simple but very useful, is give descriptions to your roles. Even though, for instance, you might work at like the most reputable company in Ecuador, if you're talking to an investor who's based in the UK, they will have no idea what that company does. Or if you work in, I don't know, energy, and now you're talking to people who are not in the energy sectors, they might not know that you work for the top two consulting firm in energy. And so it's important to actually give a bit of a description to the roles that you have. Because that will give people a very good understanding of what your achievements were there. This is super simple, but I think it really cuts through the noise. Like I would say over 90% of the profiles on LinkedIn don't have all of these things. They don't have a good tagline that simply says what they're interested on. They most of the times don't have a cover, nor do they use their highlight section. And they also don't have a description of the roles that they've used. So with that, I think this was meant to be, or this is meant to be more of a workshop. And I think the best way is to learn by doing. So I want to do makeover time. We're going to go from this to hopefully this. And I would like to take a few volunteers. We're going to do 3 makeovers right now. So anyone who wants to volunteer first?
Yeah, I can go first.
Okay, Sophia. We're gonna go for Sophia first, and then we're gonna take 2 Amela. So, like, start ramping up your profiles. Sophie, do you wanna drop your LinkedIn there?
Okay.
Absolutely. You already have it, but let me reshare it with you. Just a sec. Here we go. That's me. View profile. God, I'm so slow. Sorry.
Sophie, were you
Mhm.
able to drop your LinkedIn? Otherwise, I'm gonna search for you because I do have you.
Thanks. I just got it this second.
Okay.
So there we go. Again, go for it.
All right. I think before we go into Sophie's profile, tell me, what do you want people to experience when they look at your profile?
Mm. And someone approachable, someone that you can definitely talk to and gather around different topics so I can help them out and connect them to through people or with other situations.
Okay, fantastic. Are you, if you were to categorize yourself, are you a founder, are you an operator, or are you investor?
I'm an investor and also a founder.
Okay, that is tricky. You ideally want to categorize yourself as one. Let's just look at you as if
Yes,
you were a founder. Um,
exactly.
Another day we'll do the investor one because ideally you want to make sure that people just have one idea about you. Um, all right, so is everyone able to see Sophie's profile? Yeah, fantastic. I'm gonna go talk through it. So firstly, here I think you say businesswoman.
I
By the
do.
way, Sophie, take all of this with like a pinch of salt. Like,
Of
uh,
course.
the idea here is just to make a bit of an example and kind of look into what things could be potentially optimized. I like that you already have a picture, very trustable. I think it could be closer up because how the idea in LinkedIn, I've seen some people that have pictures where you can see all of their body and so on, but ideally what people want to see is just your face. So you could even just zoom into this picture because this picture is already really good. This tells us really cool adjectives of what you are, but it doesn't really tell how you can support others. So
Yes.
if I were you, I would try and like brand this a little bit more oriented towards what you want to give to people or what you're looking for in terms of connections. In terms of tagline here, you want to kind of show what your expertise is. So I think a really good alternative to this is to put the industry that you're in. So for instance, if you're in the entertainment industry, I would put something with entertainment, like something about what you do, because I see businesswoman, but I'm not sure what do you do within that, right? Like for instance, I see here chief strategy officer. So I would just put chief strategy officer and then entertainment and then maybe investments. And then people look at your profile from the first go and they would just already know
Beautiful.
what's happening with you and what to connect for. Then in the case of Sophie, she already has a fairly complete about. So I think this is a really good one. Because you even mentioned some brands and different things. You have a feature section, which is cool. Uh, you do have some activity, so that's also good. And you do have some information. Here, I think maybe Mujeres Invirtiendo, for instance, for the ones who don't know it, is a really large collective of women investors in Mexico. But if you're not from Mexico, you would be like, what's Mujeres Invirtiendo? So
Okay.
ideally, you want to put largest collective of women investors across Mexico. Because then people just know already, oh, that's very cool, right? In the
Great.
case here, your chief strategy officer, I think this is a good description. You might want to put their website there, but I think they can, if people are very curious about you, they'll just like click on it and go into their website. This is also good. You have different things here. Founder Institute, maybe you don't need to put because I think people do know it. However, what I would try and do is try and make sure that everything is just in one language. So if your public
Okay.
is gonna be reading in English, in terms of your description here, I would just switch it to English so it matches the
Okay.
other things that you have in your profile. Yeah, you can continue to write posts in Spanish. I think that's totally fine because that's kind of like your expertise. Another thing that I see in Sophie's profile that not everyone has and that I like is that every single company that you work for has a logo. And as silly as that sounds, that does make an impact when people look at the profiles. Because when it doesn't have a logo, you wonder, is this real? Or is this just
I
something?
don't trust people that don't have a logo for their company. I really
Yeah,
don't.
exactly. So you want to make sure that you have those things. And maybe someone's super curious and they even look at other things. So for instance, here you don't have a logo, and I understand because this is just your side gig, but I would still kind of try and create it as a company in LinkedIn, put
Okay.
Sophie Niño de Rivera Consulting and add a logo to it. You just make
That's
your own
great
logo.
advice. I love it.
Yeah. Because you want to make sure that people always find something, right? Like it looks like you're reputable, even if they don't know it. Um, yeah. Let's look fundraiser and different things. So now we're gonna take a second person, and this time I'm gonna have to give the first go to one of the Amelas. So who here is an Amela member and wants their profile renewed? Ideally, someone who's a founder. If not, I'm gonna take other people.
You can do mine. Sorry, I don't have my camera on because I'm in a mom mode, but yeah, you can take mine.
Okay, I'm
It's
gonna
in
take
the
Salma.
chat.
I know Salma. Salma is actually quite advanced, so let's see. Maybe we'll find some good things, and maybe we'll find some things that have to be improved.
Perfect.
So let's look at Salma. So this is Salma Mendoza. Nutrición sin concesiones. I like the vision here, Salma. However, if I look at you the first time, I don't know what that means, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's really nice as a, oh, you want to dream and stuff, but you don't know what this means. So I think if you were to say something like redefining nutrition for infants, I would understand better what you're doing.
Okay.
Uh, instead of the other part. I understand that you put it into languages. I think that's fine because you have both type of publics. For context, Salma is actually, it's good you're a nutrition advocate. And she's the founder of Natal, which is a company that deals with child nutrition. So I think that's good that she kind of put that there. Even the picture is cute, doesn't detain too much from you, so that's good. Maybe the only thing in pictures is sometimes they appear strange whenever you do look at mobile. So I would just check on that if I were you.
Okay. Okay.
Then here you say, as a mother, I've become more passionate about nutrition's impact on health and how nutrition plays a role in a person's overall health. I think this is nice, but I would just start with, I started Natal because as a mother, I realized, and I'm just saying that because in your case, since you are always like your LinkedIn is kind of like your sales page, sell as credibility to yourself. So you're trying to sell people into the idea that you are fully committed into making Natal work. And so
Okay.
that's why I would just add it before, because it is
Okay.
very like tied to what you're doing, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's why it's there. But okay, good. I'll just add that.
I
Perfect.
like that it says over 12 years of experience, this, maybe I would just name drop a little bit here because you've worked for some good brands, like for some, I don't know, unicorn or big tech companies. I would just name drop them. It's good that you mention your education and then the type of people you want to talk to. That's nice. You also have some information over here. This is very simple. I think it's good. See, clean ingredient infant formulas designed to optimize health and development for babies and small children. I would mention what TESA is if you remember, you want to showcase it. I would mention this is a good one because you just mentioned what you did there. Since most people outside of LATAM don't actually know what Cover is, I would just mention Series A company or something like that. I believe that's where Cover is right now.
Yeah, I think they're in Series B already. So, but yeah, I'll just put that there.
Okay, then just
One
put,
question though. I worked there when it was a Series A, but now it's a Series B. So I just put down Series B company,
yeah,
right?
it doesn't
Okay.
matter. Like the main thing is
Okay.
people know that this is a trustable company. You might have worked there when it was pre-seed, and they
Okay.
would realize, like, if someone really wants to go, they'll be like, oh, 2002, they were not Series B there. But I think the main idea is that you want to transmit people that you work for a reputable company that's still around and actually got to scale. That's what you want to
Perfect.
transmit.
Okay.
Then you have, it's nice because you even have some career progression of, hey, you actually got promoted through a job. Also similar to Conecta, like people outside of Mexico don't necessarily know what Conecta is, so it would just be nice to mention. Then you have your education over here is good. Let me just double check here. Bachelor, okay, fine. Then you have projects. I think in volunteering, there is no need to actually have an image, but if you have an image, it's always nice.
Okay.
If you have anything that you've already built about Natal, like for instance, I see here you write stuff. I don't know, maybe whenever you did the announcement of, hey, now I am the founder of Natal, I would just put it in here. And I'll show you how I usually do it. Because this is also something that you can all do. So for instance, when I decided to go full-time into Amela, I wrote this thing and then I just put it in here, right? Like when I decided, when I was a venture partner, I mentioned it here. And this is just a tag. Like LinkedIn allows you to add things and it just creates further credibility because if people are curious enough to click it, then they'll see a lot of comments about it and it'll just make you look like a more trustable person. So going back to it,
That's
I would
awesome.
just put it in here. Like if you had anything written about Natal or you yourself announced that you were going for Natal or whatever was very well received by your audience, you want to put it in there. If at some point you won, I don't know, best employee of the month, I know that doesn't exist at Uber, but let's just say as if it were, or some sort of recognition or your promotion, you also just add it here. Like I think it just further incentivizes of, hey, people actually really like her as she was working in those places. And then I see here you're not utilizing the feature section. I would use the feature section and maybe just put the link to my website, like to the company's website.
Okay.
Because then you kind of save a step for people that stalk you with quotations, right? Like stalk you in a nice way. Because investors will look at people's profiles and then be like, oh, what can I find here, right? And if there's something to click, they will click it and be like, oh, that's cool. So for instance, going back to my section, let me just show you super quickly. If people go to me directly, like they can just go and click on my newsletter and instantly subscribe, or they just go and read like the commentary, right? So you want to create those moments as early as possible. So
Perfect. Thank you. And
you're
this was
welcome.
amazing.
Who is going next? Anyone else who wants to
What's like a
go?
minimum number that would be really good for references? Because I have like 20 something, but how do you think about this?
I couldn't really understand the question, but I'll answer it after the third Makeover, Sophie. So who goes next?
Can you hear me? I would love to go next.
Okay,
Marjorie.
so
Hold on.
Marjorie, pass on your
Sorry.
LinkedIn.
I am being challenged. There we go. Sorry, forgive me. There we go. I just popped it in the
I think we might be able to do more. I thought there would be disgraces. And so I
right.
was just like, oh my God, it might take me like 40 minutes to do one profile.
Okay.
But so far it hasn't been that bad. So let's look at, I already have hers. And then I think we even have time to do, Cristel, are you trying to volunteer or are you doing something else?
Yes, sorry, it's just that my internet is super slow, so I had to take the camera off.
Yeah, no worries. I think, yeah, so let's just do
Amazing.
Marjorie. Let me start sharing my screen.
I recently did a little overhaul myself, so this
Okay.
will be good to
Awesome. So look, you actually seem to have put a lot of care into your LinkedIn, just from a first overlook. This is just me because I found that whenever you shrink this screen into like the phone screen, Connect Her will not show. I think it usually works better if you have whatever is written on the right. Also, maybe this is aesthetics. I think it's a lot to read this and then also see your
Yeah.
face.
Yeah.
So ideally, you want to put this on this side, but also check it out on the mobile version because many people just look at LinkedIn on mobile version, depending on whether they're on the go or not. Okay, what else do we have? Founder and CEO of Connect Her, Switch Communications, the Good Cookies founder. You have a lot of stuff happening. I think it's good to know that you're founder of Connect Her. I would love to know what that's for. Because seeing all of these other things makes me feel a little bit unfocused. Like I'm like, okay, she's got a lot of stuff happening, but I'm not sure what I would connect with her for, right? If I see here Connect Her, it says facilitating business connections. So I'm wondering what way is this a membership? Is this a network? Like what's that? Then you do have your education, so that's cool. People can follow you. Some people have followed you. American by birth, French by adoption, Indian by love. That's very cute. We have many things here. Remember that when people look at your profile, they cannot read all of these. Like very few people will actually read the whole thing. So I think you want to try and make sure that the first line is actually what you want to offer to the people. So even though this is super cute, I would pass this to like the second line. I would try and put something about, like in my case, my line is awful because I just have so many people who reach out to me. So I've just been like, if you're a woman and you're interested in entrepreneurship, just write this and I will reply. But that was just to pull out. But in your case, I would just use it to state what you wanna.
To me, I know it's really long, but I actually did a workshop with LinkedIn, like the LinkedIn at Women group, and they basically just said it's really important to have a lot of words from a search perspective because I agree that no one's actually going to read it. So it was more to cover if someone's searching for anything, they're able to find you with sort of keywords related to you.
Yeah, I think that's great. Like, I'm not saying that you need to make this smaller. All I'm saying is that you should better utilize your first line.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
Everything else is good.
It's irrelevant that I'm American and French and Indian.
Yeah, I mean, it's lovely. I think it adds character and it adds like more of a, hey, you're a person too, which I love, but I think it's just
Total
better
sense.
use of, hey, how do people connect with you? Okay, see, she's got her newsletter, she's got some stuff here. Ideally, you want to prioritize stuff that has 86 likes, not the one with 8 likes. So unless you feel like it's super relevant to you. But I would just go through all of your feature items and kind of prioritize which ones. Every once in a while, I go through mine because I do think that maybe it was relevant back in the day, but it's not so relevant anymore. Maybe you switch jobs, maybe you change the type of thing. If you're a founder and you have a founding and fundraising announcement, you definitely have to put it. Like I think that adds increasingly like super quick credibility to you, right? So you want to optimize for credibility. Post is okay. You seem to be active. Here you go. Global product services marketplace to support. See, this is something I would have loved to learn.
Okay.
I only learn it now. There's different things here. I'm gonna talk a little bit about other stuff later, but so far, okay, at least you have a picture and everything. See, in this case, she already has a few links in the things that she has. Here you go. You have more stuff that people can read. So people can learn a lot about you just by looking at this profile.
In all fairness, I worked in communications for 20 years.
Okay, there you go. So that's probably why. So yeah, I would just optimize those tiny things. I don't think there is that much more.
That's great. I'll make those
that
updates
needs to
this
be.
afternoon. Yippee.
I do have to ask, is there anyone who feels like their LinkedIn is really like a disaster? I might, yeah.
Lucian is smiling.
Lucian, do you want to do yours? I don't know. I'm just trying to, I want to try and help someone like drastically.
Mine is not that bad, so I wouldn't want to take that opportunity from someone else, but thank you.
All right, no worries. So then what we're gonna do is, Chris, I will message you later on that part, but I want to
There's
try
a
and
great question in the comments.
yeah. That's what
Okay.
I want to do. So
Okay.
I want to give you like the last hints, and then we're gonna open the Q&A, because then we can make the most out of all the questions that you might have. I found a question that's really interesting by Anna. Any recommendations on stealth mode and stuff like that, and those are things I wanted to answer too. So let's go for the last bit. Let me know whenever you've seen my screen. Should be shared now. Okay, I'm gonna go into present mode. Okay, fantastic. So I wanted to give you a quick tips, because I think ideally here you don't just live with like, okay, great, now I know at least those 5 things, but also some do's and some don'ts from like the investor side, right? Because remember, like today wasn't just about giving like LinkedIn advice, which many people can give, but also give you a little bit of an insight of what investors usually think whenever they look at a profile. Out of the 3 profiles, we looked at the one from Salma, and I think there I gave a little bit of a hint of, hey, like people want to understand what are the companies that you work for, where venture backable and stuff. So here I summarized a few. First is, I think whenever people look at building credibility, ideally you want to show that you have relevant expertise in the area that you're building. I know it's not always the case, but that's the ideal. I don't know if any of you has heard of founder market fit. If you've heard of market fit or not, founder market fit is basically, are you building in an area that you're supposed to be building? So for instance, in the case of Salma, she is building a nutrition company, but all of her expertise previously was mostly on fintech. So that's why I think she put there, as a mother, I decided to build this. Because otherwise you would have never guessed that Salma was a mother, you know? She might have been someone who doesn't have children and decided to build an infant nutrition company. It would have been even better had she worked at Unilever and stuff like that, but sometimes you don't have that. So ideally you want to show in some way that you have a relevant expertise, or that there is something why you're building what you're building. Then the second thing, look fully committed. And that's what I meant with like, when you have too many things happening, people start questioning whether you're doing one thing or you're doing many things. And if we go back to the first, if there was one thing that I wanted you to take on in terms of trust building is, hey, investors, like early stage investing is the biggest showcase of trust. If someone's trusting you with their hard-earned money, they want to know that you're fully committed to this, that you're not doing anything else on the side. And so, for instance, I've seen profiles where people have, I don't know, 2 things, and realities they're not devoting much time to the other thing, but they still have it there. Close it as a position of put, I'm volunteering or something like that. Just make it very simple for people to know what you're focusing your energy and your time on. The next thing is, do interact with investors post if possible. I don't think anyone wants to be anyone's stalker, so don't overdo it. But I do think it's helpful to interact with people's posts. Like that's why LinkedIn, it's not just to create connections, but sometimes it also allows you to follow people. I don't actually know the 10K people that follow me. I know, I don't know, maybe like 5K, which is quite interesting. But the other 5K, I don't know, right? So I guess they found something that they found interesting. And if there is someone who kind of repeatedly likes the things that I do or comments, then I tend to notice them, you know? And I think it's the same for any investor. And also, whenever investors post stuff, it is to signal people that they're open, right? Or to signal their interest. So for instance, back in the day when Twitter was more used, I used to write big market research about the future of work or fintech or any specific topic. And the hope there was that some fintech founder or some future work founder would read it, relate it, and message me saying, I am actually building in that space, would love to connect. You know, it's not always the case, but if you can try and interact with some investors post, always with relevancy. And then the next thing is talk about the problem that you're solving. So for instance, I think that's a very underutilized opportunity. You can write in the case of, I don't know, in the case of Salma that was doing child nutrition, you could share news that you read about like why child nutrition is so important. And then whenever an investor looks at you, they know that at least once a month you show up and you talk about the biggest trends on that part, that you are informed, that you really care about that. The last bits, I think, have to do with like LinkedIn etiquette. I know it sounds silly, but maybe like 90% of the people who like try and connect with me don't ever say why they want to connect with me. And this happens to everyone. Like, it's not just me. It literally happens. Like, it happened to me while I was working at different funds. They just like add you, like collection. And if you don't give context to people, it's really hard to know why they would connect with you. Also, because as I mentioned, sometimes LinkedIn serves as a validator of relationships. So for instance, if I see that you're connected, if you're, let's say, applying for a job with me, and I see that you're connected with my other friend, I will ask my friend, hey, what did you think about this person? Did you have a good experience with them or not? And that's why it's not ideal to connect with a bunch of people that you don't know. And if you are going to connect with someone, say, hey, I really love what you wrote about, I don't know, the deep dive payments infrastructure. I am building in that space, so therefore would love to connect and like build a relationship or talk more about it or something, you know? You don't always have to just connect because you're fundraising. You could also just connect about like sharing information. But do reach out with a context. Then the next thing is do gather hunting list. And this is something that I usually talk about more whenever we talk about fundraising strategy. There's so many people in the internet that you come across, and I think it's just better to start gathering those people earlier rather than later, because I see so many founders that when they decide to fundraise, they're like, oh shit, I never connected with all of these people previously. I don't know who would be interested in the type of stuff that I'm building. But if you do this pre-work, then it's a lot easier later on. And then also add pictures and look like a winner. I know it sounds silly, but pictures do transmit a lot. People love pictures on LinkedIn. So a post with a picture is always better received than a post without a picture. Nowadays, there's a lot of people abusing like the AI pictures. I'm not sure that has the same results, but it's better with an AI picture that is relevant to what you're writing about than no picture. And then I also wanted to give you a quick list of don'ts. These are like the red flags. So first, do not appear to be working on 20 things. I think this is the biggest turn off, you know, when you seem to be doing everything. You're doing fintech, but you're also doing, I don't know, D2C, and then at the same time you have a job in a different thing. It's a big red flag. Then the second thing is, and this might be a bit of a controversial opinion, but I think ideally you don't want to openly say on LinkedIn, hey guys, I'm starting my fundraise, talk to me, because what you're going to cause is very likely people will not reach out to you. I've also seen founders who say I'm fundraising, and then they also have this little halo saying open to work. Do not have that. Has the most contrarian effect ever. Do not put that thing. Even if you're looking for a job, do not put it. Do not add people without context. Obviously, I already explained that, so I don't think I need to drill further on that one. Do not share your deck on messages. And this is also my personal opinion. I think LinkedIn is a great place to have a connection and an opening. It's not a great place to create a transaction. And so ideally you connect on LinkedIn, but you pass on the conversation to email, and then you're able to share your deck and more information. So don't share your deck around LinkedIn messages. Also, do not spend all of your day in LinkedIn. Don't be the person who posts about absolutely everything, because there is a thing which is called overexposure, or founders that are just there for the fame. And it's also a red flag to investors if you seem to be the person who's posting every day and it doesn't have to do with like your daily work. So for instance, in my case, I do have to post quite often because a lot of what I do is community building, is networking, is relationship building, is connecting people. But if I were working on a B2B, maybe slightly less so, you know? No, B2B is actually a good channel being on LinkedIn, because that's where like business people are. But I'm just trying to say that ideally you're not the person who posts every day. Like honestly, LinkedIn, to grow your audience in LinkedIn, you don't need to post every day. You just have to have a few good quality posts and have some recurrence. So I think those are the do's and don'ts. And now we open it up to Q&A.
Can I have a comment on that note?
What
It's
notes?
Crystal. I'm trying to put my camera back on.
Okay, go ahead, Crystal. What's your question
Yes,
or what's your comment?
so you mentioned, Anais, when people are connecting, I 100% agree with you. I don't accept anyone that I have not met in person or like bonded on similar event like this, a webinar. So there is a reason. But nowadays, and I used to put always a note, but nowadays, even with the LinkedIn Premium, you are limited and you can only send maybe 4 notes per month or something like that. So I no longer use the notes, unfortunately, because, well, the limitations numbers. So maybe what it will be useful is for creating a standard that, well, if the person that's trying to connect with you sounds like it could be interesting, then when you accept, the other person is supposed to send you a note why they have connected, and if not, then you can delete them afterwards, like a few days, just to like, create a different culture of how to interact on LinkedIn. What do you think?
I'm wondering, what do you mean with notes? When you say notes, you mean like when you're able to send more than 350 characters?
No, so when you connect, you request a connection on LinkedIn, it says add a note.
Oh
So
yeah,
I
but you
always used to add the note, and now it's telling you like, oh, you have used your limit for the month.
oh, I've never come across that. I connect with a lot. Maybe it has to do with how many people have accepted your connection, unfortunately. Because I always send notes on everyone, and so far I haven't come across that, but I'll look into that. Um, it's super useful. And the one thing that I've noticed is that whenever you add people on the phone, you're not able to add a note. So that's why usually I try not to add people on my phone unless I'm meeting them right away, because I just cannot send a note if I've never met this person, and then it just sends directly.
No. And I wanted to amplify on your point when you said that yes, people will ask you like don't collect contacts, because I am the one that asks every single person when I have connections in common, and I'm super disappointed if they say, oh, I don't know them, I just have them.
Yeah.
Speaks both badly about the person that has in common and the other one.
Yeah,
Thank
for
you.
context, guys, Crystal is actually an investor, so maybe that's also why you got a gazillion connection requests. So I want to try and go through some questions. I'm going to prioritize the questions on the comments just because I think that's going to be easier for me rather than just gathering there. So let me double check. So I got a lot of likes on the question of any recommendations when you're in stealth mode by Anna. And I want to talk about it. So I once even did a test on that, I just like created a funny post saying, hey, now I'm going on stealth mode. I've seen this multiple times. Yeah, I think stealth mode only works if you have really great credentials. And take this with a pinch of salt. What I mean with that is, obviously, if you went to, I don't know, Harvard or Stanford or LBS, whatever MBA, and then you work at some unicorn, and then you put stealth mode, like VCs or investors have a lot of systems set up to be able to find these people on LinkedIn. So, or sometimes they also just see it. So they will reach out to you. That will actually help. But if that's not your case, stealth mode doesn't really help. And also there is also, I would say, a duration that stealth mode can be useful for you. So what I mean with that is you cannot be stealth mode for a year and a half and expect to have all of the people coming up to you. Like, I think if you're gonna do that trick of, hey, let me do stealth mode, power game type of thing, you gotta have a bit of a strategy behind it, You must be fundraising in 3 months and be able to show some things. But if you're not gonna do that, then I would rather not go on stealth mode, because in reality, what you're doing is you're losing out on customers. Because while you're in a stealth mode, like LinkedIn is not just to attract investors, but it many times is also to attract customers. And you could be building that customer base. So then we're gonna go for, wait, do we have any other written question? Because otherwise I'm gonna go for the people who raised
Just
their
on
hand.
that point of stealth mode, maybe I used it slightly incorrectly. I was more talking about when you're working on something like behind the scenes, so you're not talking about it publicly. Like, you kind of spoke about the pre-list, or kind of the work that you should do before you need to fundraise. And I kind of interested in the equivalent for, okay, you haven't publicly started talking about what you're building, like what prep work could you do for your LinkedIn profile before you kind of launch something as well?
Okay, let me just show you what I meant with stealth mode. Maybe that was different things. So what I meant with stealth mode is this. A lot of people actually put in their profile they're working at stealth startup, and that's what VCs know as, oh, stealth mode. Uh, but if you're talking about is, I'm literally working on stealth, like I'm working on this side thing and I want to start creating a bit of traction before I announce it to the world that I'm going to become a founder of blah. I think what could help is just writing stuff about it, you know? Like for instance, if I were to be building something in, let's say, the language space, you know, that's going to be my next gig. Maybe I start creating a little bit of content on language because that will pop up to people who are interested in language or AI, and they will connect with me or like my things. And then I can actually grab their contact and keep it in my CRM, and that will help me also like start creating those relationships without having to say, hey, I'm fully working on that. Or maybe you could just post a report that you read on that space and say, oh, I found this very interesting because of this and that and that. So actually utilize it to just bridge relationships. Next, Sophie, do you have a question?
When it comes to the referee part, like everyone that's giving references to people, like I've been working with her, like my friend, my investor, whatever it is. What do you suppose is a good number to have? And also for investors, do they actually mind having them from previous works, or more like it, like what are you doing at this moment?
Let me see. I'm not sure I fully understood the question. So you mean how many of what do you need from references?
References. Yeah. Like the people that say, hey, she's amazing, like all the recommendations. Sorry. All
Ah,
the
okay.
recommendations.
So if you're talking about the specific recommendations on LinkedIn, is that the
Yeah.
case?
Yeah.
I don't think most people don't have them. So, for instance, I have them from back in the day, and I think they add to credibility. I think it's more useful whenever you're doing like work, like whenever you're looking to switch from jobs. Or whenever you're looking to get clients. So, for instance, if I were doing a business where I'm a solopreneur, I would want to have maybe a few references there. But reality is people are not going to look at those references whenever they do their due diligence on founders because
Perfect.
we know that those are the ones that they approved and they kind of liked. So they will just look at your connections and kind of try to figure out who they will talk to. I think a good parallel is three people, depending. And many times they also ask founders, hey, can you provide a few references? And then they have a chat. And within those references, they always ask, hey, like you have to ask whoever you pass on as a reference to be truthful, to not just say
Yeah.
nice things, because if they
Yeah.
only say nice things, then you're like, okay, this is not a great reference. No one's that perfect. Some like many times it is the case that you actually reference on a founder and they were not such a great employee because many founders are not great employees. So that is also acceptable, just to make sure that people are not afraid of, hey, like ideally you're a nice person to work with. You were not like an awful person. Uh, but it's not as important as one might think.
Great. Thanks.
Anyone else who has questions? I think I have here. You can have profiles in different languages, like English profile.
Mhm.
Spanish. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, who was it?
No, I was just concurring with you.
Ah, okay, fantastic. All right, I'm looking into the questions. I feel like we've covered most of the questions. I hope that you already got a little bit of when inviting members to connect, you can add personal. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I find this strange. Maybe the fact that you guys are saying that sometimes you try and connect with people and you cannot add context, that's never happened to me. So maybe it is because I have already a lot of contacts. I think the only case where it did happen to someone, maybe, okay, explain, Lucian, because I'm wondering.
Well, this happens to me a lot because I'm collaborating with free funds and I'm mostly going to the events. So, yeah, at the beginning of the month, I can get like, I think it's 5 people I can put context in. But then I just can't do it. So what I do is I try to connect with the person right at the moment and then exchange some messages. It's like my CRM. Oh, it's great to know that you founder are doing these with climate tech and the carbon, blah, blah, blah. So then I can go and search for them. But usually if you are not paying for the LinkedIn version, if you have the free one, you cannot have context. Indeed, I tried to do that with you right now, Anais, and I
And then
just
you
couldn't
didn't
add
go.
any message. So I had to send you just
Oh, this
an
is worrisome.
invitation.
So look, if I were to fundraise, I would just pay for LinkedIn Premium then.
Yeah.
Because it's just so useful to add context into stuff. I do remember once, I think it happened to me when I connected with too many people, but like usually it doesn't happen. I guess, yeah, LinkedIn is also a business. They also need to monetize. So
I had a question that wasn't that one.
go ahead.
My question is, it's been hard for me to get paid in the venture capital business, and I'm working with free funds right now.
Mhm.
So that doesn't fit with the downs of doing too many things or working too many places, but I don't know how to manage that.
I don't think that's a LinkedIn makeover type of question. I feel like that might be a bit of a different advice. I can give you just my personal take, but I would need to know the funds.
No,
Uh,
my thing is, should I put the three that I'm working, or if I'm mostly collaborating, I just shouldn't put them as working there? That's my question for LinkedIn.
okay. I think you could just make it clear that it's not a full-time job because you still want to be available for other opportunities. So you could put part-time, you could put like voluntary, you could put something like that. Because you want to make sure that you're still available for that opportunity, you know? All right, so
Thank you.
I think that's pretty much it in terms of questions. I'm gonna give now the freebie. And so you can see, here we go. So I have a freebie. So, because we love to rave about these things, you can win a makeover session with me, like a personalized one, by posting a story with your thoughts about this event. Uh, the best ones will win. And also, I'm running a fundraising bootcamp where I'm going to be expanding more on questions about how to build a CRM, how to utilize LinkedIn, to be able to gather all of those contacts, how to create a fundraising strategy, what investors actually think about. And we're actually giving a 24-hour discount to some of the people that joined here. If you're an Amela already, don't worry, you already have an even bigger discount, so you just ping me. But if you're not, then this is a really great way to help you on your fundraise. And with that, I think we finish. I hope, and I'm glad we finished on time. We have 2 minutes. So I'm gonna stay here in case anyone still has questions. And I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now.
Can I give founders a suggestion when connecting with investors on LinkedIn?
Yeah, of course. By the way, Shruti, no worries. That's actually gonna be sent on a message. So you'll also get the code there. But I'm gonna drop it here as well. Go ahead, Crystal. What's up?
Yeah, so for example, I'm a venture partner at a few funds. So also like Vision, we don't get paid for that. That's out of the, we want to help founders get money, and then we will get either a bounty, which is like $100, so literally nothing for all the work that you put into, because you filter, you do a lot of work with founders, or a percentage of the carry, which is what is more interesting, just to give you guys founders background on how it works. So while we are your cheerleaders, it is really not our mandate to look at your, all your applications, all the decks that we will send. So just so you know, when you contact a venture partner, or even like an analyst, it doesn't really speak well to your name if you are just bombarding with messages, and especially long messages and decks and attachments. If even more so, if the fund that the person represents does not fall into it cannot help your business. You are not in their investment thesis. So my business is called Vendahan Ventures, and because it has ventures in the name, people think it is a VC, but we're not a VC. I'm a solopreneur, I'm a consultant, and we do a lot of things within the ecosystem. So people contact me completely out of the thesis that is well explained on my LinkedIn. So please don't be one of those, because then I don't want to help these kind of people that have not done their homework. But if I get connected by someone and they say, hey, I'm in the space, I know it's not yours, but maybe you can advise me, and it's a different approach, I'm super willing to help the person, because I know that they have read my profile and it's not just spray and pray.
Yeah, I think that's unfortunately most people don't read. That's why I had to put in capital letters. If you're a woman entrepreneur, do send me a message, because I will prioritize you over the 800 pending requests I have. But yeah, I think ideally here we try and shift the mindset on, instead of reaching out to people, get people to come to you, attract people. That's
Yes,
always the better
that's
lead,
much better
you
approach.
know? All right, guys, I think we have to close, but it was nice spending this Saturday with you, and have a great rest of your weekend. Bye.
Thank you so much.
you.
Thank you very
Yes.
much.